Ain't about his respect, son. It's about everyone else's.
Yellowstone! This modern western has become a massive hit throughout the last few seasons because of its plot twists, impressive production value, and sharp scripts. But one very observant viewer exposed the show by pinpointing some hilarious mistakes that will truly shock you. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bar for more future uploads on the Yellowstone series. The Disappearing Gun Wound. The first season of the show has recently fallen victim to a very embarrassing error that was spotted during a pivotal action sequence. In episode 3 of season 1 called No Good Horses, actor Luke Grimes, who portrays Casey Dutton in the scene, confronts some dangerous people unwillingly just to keep his son Tate safe. Okay, we can't deny that the episode wasn't filled with an emotional punch. In the episode, we got to find out what happened to Beth, Casey, and Evelyn, which is Jamie's mother. However, things took quite a U-turn when Casey encountered 2 drug cooks that had kidnapped a young woman while he was driving. So, being as brave as he is, Casey leaves his young son alone, not knowing that a deadly rattlesnake was just chilling near him, to go and risk his own life and defeat the cooks. By making this stupid decision, which we think came from the fact that Casey was watching too much of that Breaking Bad series, he decides to go one-on-one with the remaining cook. Casey manages to shoot him several times in the shoulder before he fell to the ground, where he was shot again and eventually got killed when he landed face first on a rock. But even though this butt-kicking sequence showed the impressive skills Casey had, a couple of viewers could not help but laugh at all the inconsistent gunshot wounds during the scene. One Yellowstone fan decided to further investigate this scene, and he realized that something strange happened with the victim's shirt when Casey was shooting him. The fan said that when Casey was chasing after the cook, at the moment right before he falls, we can see that Casey shoots him in the left shoulder, which leaves a hole in his shirt. But just seconds after that, the mark disappears. At first, this is a bit hard to tell because the scene cuts often and the cook lies on his back most of the time he is on the ground. Additionally, this very observant fan was determined to further study the scene and then later realized that there was not one single drop of blood coming out from all of these gunshot wounds. There were also no blood stains on the cook's white shirt after he was shot several times. Fans found it hilarious that the creators of the show put almost no effort into this scene script-wise and action-wise. The unusual trees in the background. Unfortunately, this was not the only mistake that fans found in Yellowstone. Another viewer posted on social media that even though the first season of the series took place in March, the trees in the background of the scene were not exactly from the spring season. The viewer continued to explain that in the mountains, leaves do not start blooming up until mid-April, so this scene was most likely shot during the autumn season. This mistake is also visible in the episode No Good Horses, but it is kind of explainable because Sheridan and the creators of the series were still in the process of finding the landscape and background they were supposed to film in. Because the creators were all over the place with the background and even the storyline of the series, they received quite some criticism. When the episode was reviewed on Vulture, people started asking what was up with that Casey subplot. That scene was too dramatic. No hate on Casey, he is a likable character in the show. Luke Grimes portrays him perfectly, but every time we see him on the show, he plays the scrappiest parts of the storyline. At this point, we're thinking that Sheridan gives him the most unusual story ideas that he can't seem to fit anywhere else throughout the series. But ever since Yellowstone has become more successful as a series, we expect Taylor Sheridan to deliver a stronger storyline in season 4. Speaking of season 4, it's right around the corner and we can't stop but think about what drama awaits. Before the upcoming season approaches, we must mention some of these awesome moments of the whole series. Most memorable moments so far on Yellowstone. No one can forget that amazing opening scene in the premiere of the first season. It let viewers understand that the series itself talks about how life in rural Montana is not as easy as one might expect. When John stands out of the wreckage of a car crash while the driver is dead, it speaks a lot about what to expect on the show. Oh, and remember the injured horse? We just can't forget how John comforts the animal before taking its life when he shot it in the head to end its agonizing pain. Authority then takes over the scene, claiming the roaring start of Yellowstone. The next most iconic moment on the show was when we got introduced to Beth. Even though her story has been a roller coaster ride of disastrous events, her opening scene, where she enters the Salt Lake City, clearly shows that she is a brutal negotiator. In the scene, she contemplates how she will ruin her owner's life after he rejected her offer. Following up next is by no doubt one of the most entertaining and explosive moments on the series. This is where Casey tries to do some work around the yard in the episode called Kill the Messenger. As he attempts to flip the tractor ramps on his sides, he gets furious and rigs it with explosives and ends up destroying the stump. Both his son and his wife are surprised by this, but to top things off in this scene, all three of them find a hidden fossil at the same spot where the stump used to be located. This added another mystery to the Montana area. It sure was an unforgettable scene. However, we cannot overlook the trough bath Beth had in season 2 of the series. We must admit that the scene was highly provocative and was centered around Beth's image. To no one's expectation, Beth went outside while holding 2 bottles of champagne and took off her robe to take a nice dip in the mini pool. And even though Rip tries to get her to cover up, she does does quite the opposite and only walks around the ranch completely nude until she gets indoors. The meth lab explosion. Okay, so I know what you're thinking here. Casey and these meth labs and meth cooks can't seem to leave him alone in the series. Well, we are just hoping he doesn't encounter one in season 4. But let's face it, the scene was iconic as he was driving with Monica down a deserted road and past a trailer that exploded out of nowhere because of a meth explosion. Knowing the love that Casey has for these meth labs, he decides to see if he can find some drama there, and to no one's surprise, he does. He finds a poor meth cook who is in agonizing pain, but differently from his first encounter with meth cooks, this second encounter is easier. He shoots the cook in the head after he asks for it himself due to not wanting to deal with the pain any longer. In the episode called Long Black Train, we have yet another great scene that includes an unforgettable fight with Jimmy. This scene includes some great plot moments when Jimmy gets frustrated after having enough of being bullied by other ranch members. He finally decides to pick up a fight with them and gets knocked out by one of the members. Despite getting beat up, he gets knocked back down again many times until Rip shows up and eventually scares them away. Jamie saves the day. In episode 5 called Coming Home, we get to see Casey in custody following his connection to the killing of 2 people. He was identified as the person guilty by the gun barrel he had previously switched up with one of the policemen when he was still in the meth lab. Thankfully, Jamie comes to the rescue and erases all evidence that could end up sending Casey to prison. Jamie then asks the officers if they have any proof or witnesses that proves Casey had anything to do with the killing. But since there was no existing evidence that tied his brother to the scene, Casey was eventually released. And we couldn't help but save the best moment for last. This is when Jamie finds out he has been adopted. At first, Jamie was shocked upon hearing this information, but then started denying it when evidence started showing up that he was adopted for real. When confronting this with his father, he explained that his biological father abused his real mother to the point of killing her and soon got sent to prison for the crime. This was all the while Jamie was 3 months old. The Duttons then decided to adopt him and keep his family's past a secret. The whole plot twist was emotional and it was one of the most touching parts of the whole series. So, which of these moments did you like the best? Make sure to tell us down below in the comments. That's a wrap up for this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.